We welcome you on this beautiful morning as we gather to explore the ancient practice of Sabbath-keeping in our worship today. If this is your Sabbath, we're especially glad that you chose to spend part of it joining us. And we also extend a warm welcome to those who are new to our community. We hope that our worship is meaningful for you, and we're glad you're here. And feel free to join us for refreshments and conversation after the service, which is downstairs in our fellowship hall.
Each month, the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists distributes a chalice lighting. The global chalice lighting is available on the UUA website in English, Chinese, Spanish, French, German, and Italian. We kindle our flame this morning, remembering our Unitarian and Universalist family across the globe with the words of Penny Hackett Evans, as others before us have sought to make ordinary time special by lighting a candle. We now seek to transform this ordinary time into a special and sacred one by lighting the flaming chalice, the symbol of our free religious heritage. Nicholas, would you please come forward and assist us? And would the rest of the congregation join me in reading the chalice lighting words in the order of service as Nicholas lights our chalice? We light our chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action.
You know, there are lots of stories all around the globe about how the world came to be. And one of those stories is from the ancient Hebrew Bible. And in fact, it's the very first story in the Bible. I'm going to tell a version of that story this morning. And I'd like all of you to help. When I go like this, you say, "And it was good." Can we practice that once? And it was good. So this is how the story goes. God woke up one day and said, "I'm creating the universe today. I'm making all the cosmos, and I'm making the earth. Seems kind of dark out there. I'll make some light."
And it was good.
And then on the second day, God said, let's just focus on this little earth planety thing here. I think they need a sky. And so God created the sky and the clouds and the air that we breathe.
And it was good.
And the third day, God said, oh, this planet is rather watery. I think we need some land. And so pushed up some land and created continents and created the seas. And decided, we're going to put something in out there. It's just kind of boring the way it is. I'm going to make plants. And so God made daffodils and oak trees and cactus and seaweed and all the plants we know.
And it was good.
And then on the fourth day he said, I think the earth needs some companionship. And so during the day, we're going to have the sun in the sky. And in the evening, we'll have the moon and all the stars.
And it was good.
And then on the fifth day, God said, I think today I'm making some creatures. I'm going to make creatures that fly in the air. And so we have birds. And I'm going to make things that live in the water. And so all of a sudden now we have whales and fish and eels and lobsters and everything that lives in water.
And it was good.
And the sixth day God said, we can't just have stuff in the air and the water. I'm going to make creatures for the land that walk and slither and hang out on the land. And so all of a sudden we have lizards and snakes and ants and beetles and tigers and raccoons. And people. He made people, too, that very day.
And it was good.
And on the seventh day, said, I've been working hard all week. I created all this stuff. I need to create one more thing. I'm creating a day of rest. A day for me to reflect and look back on everything I've accomplished and what does it mean. And a day to look forward into the future with good intention. And I need to just have a place to just hang out. I created this great place. I just want to enjoy it now. And so God created the Sabbath. And it was good. And that's today's story. Thank you.
And now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Yeah. I love this traditional Hebrew song that literally means Sabbath peace. Think of it as a greeting, as in peace of the Sabbath to you, or a grand proclamation of let us observe the peace of the Sabbath. And it is a grand proclamation, one that I strive to embrace in my own life as a core spiritual practice. I'm deeply inspired by the ancient practice of Shabbat, a weekly, holy day of rest. And I wish that Unitarian Universalists would consider adopting this very simple idea and create our own Unitarian Universalist Shabbat. I say simple, and yet I know that it's not simple. Our lives tend to be overbooked, overscheduled, overworked, overbaked, overdone. We strive to make each moment count. We're out there contacting people on our cell phones as we drive. I know you do. And You check your emails while you're standing in line at the grocery store. I know you do. You text while you're in meetings. I know you do. We double and triple and quadruple book ourselves. Really, even for those of us who are not type A, always striving and always achieving, our lives are just plain busy. Busy with work, busy with family, busy with our interests, busy with housework, busy with friends, busy with church, busy with life. Indeed, we are very busy, busy bees. And I can say that because I'm a busy bee too. And I've been that way pretty much my whole life. But there is a cost to this busyness. Thomas Merton, the American monastic mystic, wrote this: "There's a pervasive form of contemporary violence, activism and overwork. The rush and pressure of modern life are perhaps the most common form of its innate violence. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything, is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our own inner capacity for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of our inner wisdom that makes our work fruitful." That's his point of view. He's got some good points. But here's another reality check. The Chinese pictograph for busy is comprised of two different characters, one for heart and one for killing. Heart killing. That's what the Chinese think being busy is. Heart killing. That doesn't sound good, and I know it's not good. But here's where we can take a cue and learn from ancient wisdom from our Jewish friends in faith as we strongly consider the concept of the Sabbath. Now, you might wonder, what does she really mean by Sabbath? The first reference to the Sabbath comes in the book of Genesis, when God rests on the seventh day, after creating the universe on the first 6 days. Then the references start picking up steam in the book of Exodus, where one of the 10 commandments is to keep the Sabbath. Various verses in Exodus go on to delineate just what keeping the Sabbath means, including doing no work whatsoever, even during harvest time. Now here's a bit of context for you. It's important to remember that the ancient Israelites were an agricultural people who knew the meaning of hard work. And yet they set down as a core value that 1 day in 7 shall be a day of rest for all, including beasts of burden. Okay, including beasts of burden. This was an absolutely radical notion. Because in those days, only the very wealthy would experience leisure, only the ruling class. So the Jews codified it by making it part of the 10 Commandments. It's the only ritual mentioned in these most basic and powerful edicts about how to behave and how to live a good life. Shabbat is therefore elevated to the most important ritual observance in Judaism. And yet Shabbat observance for some evokes a list of harsh rules about what one can and cannot do on this day. And besides which, in our modern times or contemporary days here, who has the time to devote 1 day a week to this anyway? But listen to what this day is really about. It's about saving your life. Let me say that again. It's about saving your life. Savoring your life, living your life, giving yourself the chance to come back to your work, to your obligations, to your loved ones, to yourself, refreshed and new, ready to be a doer again in the wider world. Now, I'd like you to imagine a Sabbath practice with me. What would be involved if we kept the Sabbath in the spirit of our Jewish neighbors? While we Unitarian Universalists tend not to think about commandments in our faith, let us stretch ourselves this morning to consider the mitzvah, or commandments regarding Shabbat. Now, in Judaism, just so you know, there's two levels of commandments. The first are the direct commandments from the Torah. The very famous commandments written on those stones that Moses brought down from the mountain. But the other commandments, the mitzvah, were developed over the centuries by rabbis as they gathered to consider the deeper meanings and the nuances of these bigger commandments. And so here's a look at the mitzvah associated with Sabbath as they are lived in the most expressions, not all, but most expressions of contemporary Judaism. The first is the mitzvah of observance, plain and simple, a weekly commitment to set aside one day per week for rest, recreation, or think of it as recreation. Wow, let's just think about that for a moment. Each week, one day without fail, not to work, no work, no laundry, no shopping, no appointments, no email. Could you do it? Mitzvah is a challenge in and of itself. It's hard to do, and yet it's vital. I've made such a commitment in my life, and when I am faithful to this commitment, it makes all the difference. I actually crave my Shabbat time, and I look forward to it as the week progresses. And quite honestly, I feel crabby, emotionally, spiritually, and physically when circumstances sometimes arise to force me to work on my Shabbat. And just so you know, as a minister, my Shabbat is on Mondays. I take my day of rest on Mondays. So let's just keep that as one thought. The next mitzvah is that of joy. Joy. Shabbat is all about joy. As the prophet Isaiah said, "You shall call Shabbat a delight." The Hebrew word for joy, oneg, implies celebration and relaxation, a time for sharing with loved ones. It's the walk in the woods. It's a leisurely and nicely prepared meal with family and friends. It's reading a good book, listening to poetry or other inspirational works, listening to wonderful music, simply hanging out with those you love, including yourself. The Sabbath is considered a particularly appropriate time for committed partners to make love. In fact, it is commanded to do so. You've got to love a religion, a spiritual practice that honors the joy of intimacy and celebrates healthy sexuality. Yes. And for me, the joy of Shabbat is about experiencing beauty. Beauty in nature, beauty in art, beauty in music, beauty in my family and friends, and beauty in myself. So that's my experience of joy. Now what about the next mitzvah? That's the one of rest. When was the last time that you devoted yourself truly to a day of rest? Okay, you're thinking back and going, when was that? Yeah. And I'm not talking about lying in bed all day, although sometimes that can be very appealing. I mean being rested in all ways. Being tranquil in our bodies, minds, and spirits, which of course are an interconnected whole of who we are. It's not just about not working. It means actively resting. It means putting out that hammock that's still in your garage and actually enjoying it. It means engaging in mindfulness practices of different kinds. It means allowing ourselves a soft focus on the world so that we can gaze at flowers in wonder and stop and listen with a fullness to Beethoven or whoever. It means taking time to stop and stare. It means to find a stillness, the kind of stillness that Pablo Neruda wrote about. In this place of stillness, we can reflect, and we can rediscover the mystery that lives within us. We recover the great forgotten truths from deep inside. As Rumi, the great Sufi poet, once wrote, "Secretly we spoke, that wise one and me. I said, 'Tell me the secrets of the world.' And he said, 'Shh, let the silence tell you the secrets of the world.'" Because it is in our stillness that we come to ourselves, our original best natures, our deep true spirits. Our stillness helps us get in touch with transcending mystery and wonder. And it puts us in good touch with our sense of what is larger than ourselves, and also our deep compassion for the world. Now, another mitzvah is that of refraining from work. How do you define work these days? I think a lot of us have blurred what work can mean. We would each probably have a very different version of what this commandment asks of us. For me, I would say no work. And so for me that means I'm not writing sermons, I'm not looking at my emails that you send me, not until Tuesday morning. I am not answering phone calls unless they're emergencies, and trust me, I do respond to emergencies. And I don't go to meetings. I don't do church work on Mondays. But I also don't do laundry or cleaning or shopping or bill paying or any other household activities, with the exception of sometimes food preparation. I guess I could be like our Unitarian ancestors in New England and prepare a pot of beans. That's where the Boston baked beans came from. Pot of beans in advance to be served on the Sabbath. But I actually find cooking to be a creative joy for me. And so preparing a nice meal sometimes on my Sabbath is part of my Sabbath joy. But I ask you to reflect on this. Where would you draw the line on work? It's a good question to ask. It really is. Now, another notable mitzvah is that of sanctification, meaning the deliberate setting aside of this Shabbat day as holy, a day for transformation. And really, that's the whole point of a Sabbath practice. It is to be transformed. It is to return again and again to metamorphose weekly. Think of the transformative power of 52 days a year devoted to rest and joy. How cool is that? It's amazing. This is a gift that you can give yourself and your loved ones. Yes, you can. And yet, do we? Do we? Yeah, probably not so much. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You'd think that Sabbath was like flossing your teeth or getting a colonoscopy. It's a chore you'd rather not do, but sometimes you need to. What's up with that attitude? What holds us back from the transformative power of 52 days a year of rest and joy? Is it our economic circumstance? Because sometimes it is. Sometimes we work 7 days a week, or we work 6 days a week, with the seventh day being the day to catch up on all the housework. But sometimes it's our greed. Are we overscheduling ourselves because we want and we want and we want, and we're afraid that life will pass us by? Our lives are overbursting with possibilities. We live in a time and place of so much plenty. We can be doing so many things every day. But really, we need to step back and be real. We need to make wise choices and focus and let some things go. Or do some of us, maybe, define our self-worth by our busyness? Do we feel that we will be more loved, more appreciated, more worthy if we do all the time? These are hard questions to ask ourselves. I know they are. They reach deep down into the core of our beings, and they might be difficult to reflect on in an honest way. But believe me, we are called to do this kind of reflection if we want to save and savor our lives. And what better time for this kind of reflection than on your Sabbath? Unitarian Universalists are not the only ones that are starting to re-examine this ancient spiritual practice. The Burke Presbyterian Church in Northern Virginia experimented with a congregation-wide program called the Sabbath Project. The then associate pastor, Mary Ann McKibben Dana, envisioned this project as a simple way to encourage members of the church to explore the practice of Sabbath-keeping. In the process of this experiment in her congregation, she wrote this contemporary version of Sabbath mitzvah in the midst of their experiment. Here are her words. 6 days you shall be a workaholic. On the 7th day you shall join the serene company of human beings. 6 days you shall take orders from your boss. On the 7th day you shall be master or mistress of your own life. 6 days you shall toil in the market. On the 7th day you shall detach from money matters. 6 days you shall create, drive, invent, push. On the 7th day you shall reflect. 6 days you shall be a perfect success. On the 7th day you shall remember that not everything is in your power. 6 days you shall be a miserable failure. On the 7th day you shall be on top of the world. 6 days you shall enjoy the blessings of your work. On the 7th day you shall understand that being is important as doing. So, okay, you might be thinking out there, this all sounds great, but really, Shelley, I can't see myself committing to a weekly Sabbath. So perhaps we start out slowly and we work up to those 52 full days of rest and joy. Perhaps we can do Sabbath hours, maybe one per day, or a Sabbath morning once a week. And for beginners, Sabbath moments. Yeah. But regardless of where you are on your journey, consider the power of keeping Sabbath as a spiritual practice. It is a life-saving concept that has helped to refresh the spirits of our Jewish friends in faith for centuries now. There's something to this. Perhaps everything old is new again, and it's time to reconsider this ancient practice for your own personal life-saving and life-savoring time. I wish you good Shabbos. May it be so.
What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare, no time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep or cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see
Let us pray together. O Spirit of love and life, help us to gather the fullness of our hope, our faith, and our love as we move into a new week. Our hearts are full with the news of the massive earthquake in Nepal that claimed so many lives and left a poor nation in dire condition. May the world rise up to ease their suffering and bring healing aid to the Nepalese people. Our hearts are full with the latest round of police violence directed toward Black lives in Baltimore. May white America continue to wake up from its long sleep about the reality of Black lives. We pray for the healing of Baltimore as we rejoice in the many acts of peaceful protest there and the prosecutor's decision to indict the officers who seemingly have killed Freddie Gray while he was in police custody. May each of us open to the deep truth that Black lives matter. Our hearts are full now with the cares of life, the cares that are so often with us. Grief that's still too fresh for words, tender anniversaries of grief, concerns about health, sanity, addiction, and stress that threaten our well-being. Our caring for loved ones struggling with illness or those who are approaching death. Our caring for loved ones of all ages who are in need of our very special attention. O gracious one, please hold all who carry these cares of life in your tender mercy and compassion. We hold Peggy Bond in our hearts as she starts another round of chemotherapy this week. She appreciates your loving messages of support and very much wishes to keep hearing from you as she continues her cancer journey. And in the midst of our cares, let us also rejoice in the gift of life and the blessings that grace our lives every single day. They are so plentiful. They're as plentiful and as beautiful as the spring leaves that are popping out all over Ogden right now. Let us be deeply thankful for those. If you have someone on your heart who you feel could benefit from the embrace of this beloved community, please call their face to your mind, their name to your lips, and please call out that name into this space now. By our listening, we weave the fabric of the beloved community. May we feel the loving support of this congregation, our dearest loved ones, and the spirit of life that holds and sustains us through our times of joy and sorrow together. Let us enter a time of silence so that we can hear the words that our hearts need to speak to us. Shalom, salam, shanti, amen. Blessed be.